The medical bay of Station Gamma 7 hummed with the steady rhythm of life support systems. Dr. Sarah Chen walked through the sterile corridors, her footsteps echoing softly against the metal floors. She had been assigned to the most challenging case the station had ever received. In the isolation ward behind reinforced glass sat Kira. The alien warrior had been found drifting in space, her ship destroyed, her body broken. The Zenthari were known throughout the galaxy as the perfect soldiers. They felt no pain, showed no emotion, and never formed bonds with others. Their entire species had been engineered for war centuries ago. "She hasn't spoken since we brought her in," said Nurse Tom, reviewing the medical charts. "The other doctors say it's normal. Zenthari don't communicate unless it's about battle strategy." Sarah studied the figure behind the glass. Kira sat perfectly still, her silver skin reflecting the harsh medical lights. Her large, dark eyes stared at nothing. The warrior's injuries had healed quickly, as was typical for her species, but something seemed wrong. "Has anyone tried just talking to her?" Sarah asked. Tom shrugged. "What's the point? Everyone knows Zenthari can't feel emotions. They're basically living weapons." Sarah frowned. She had spent years studying alien psychology, and something about this case bothered her. The report said Zenthari were emotionless, but Sarah had learned to trust her instincts more than reports. That evening, Sarah entered the isolation room. Kira didn't move or acknowledge her presence. The warrior sat on the edge of the medical bed, staring at her hands. "Hello, Kira," Sarah said softly, pulling up a chair. "I'm Dr. Chen. I wanted to check how you're feeling." No response. Kira's breathing remained steady and controlled. Sarah tried a different approach. "Your ship was badly damaged. You fought hard to survive." Still nothing. But Sarah noticed something small. Kira's fingers had tensed slightly at the mention of her ship. Over the next few days, Sarah returned each evening. She spoke about simple things: the station, the stars visible from the medical bay windows, the different species that lived and worked together in space. Kira never responded, but Sarah continued anyway. "The other doctors think I'm wasting my time," Sarah said during one visit. "They say your species doesn't have emotions like we do." For the first time, Kira's head turned slightly toward Sarah. It was barely noticeable, but Sarah caught it. "But I don't think that's true," Sarah continued. "I think you feel everything, maybe even more than we do." Kira's dark eyes met Sarah's for just a moment before looking away again. The breakthrough came during the second week. Sarah had been explaining how different species on the station celebrated the completion of difficult missions. She mentioned how humans often gathered to share stories and food. "We believe that sharing experiences makes us stronger," Sarah said. "When one person hurts, others help carry that pain." Kira's hands started to shake. The trembling was so slight that the monitoring equipment barely registered it, but Sarah saw it clearly. "You lost your squad, didn't you?" Sarah asked gently. The shaking increased. Kira's perfect posture began to crack. "The report said you were the only survivor of a battle with the Void Hunters. Your entire unit was killed protecting a colony world." Kira's breathing became irregular. Her silver skin began to change color, showing patches of deep blue, something the medical team had never seen before. "You tried to save them," Sarah continued. "You fought harder than anyone thought possible. But you couldn't save them all." A sound escaped from Kira's throat. It was quiet, almost like a whisper, but it was the first sound she had made since arriving at the station. Sarah slowly reached out her hand. "It's okay to feel pain. It means you cared about them." Kira looked at Sarah's outstretched hand. For a long moment, neither moved. Then, slowly, Kira reached out and touched Sarah's fingers with her own. The moment their skin made contact, Kira's entire body began to shake. The blue patches on her skin spread and deepened. Tears, actual tears, began to flow from her dark eyes. "I couldn't save them," Kira whispered, her voice broken and raw. "I tried so hard, but I couldn't save any of them." Sarah gently held Kira's hand as the warrior cried. It was the first time in recorded history that a Zenthari had shown such emotion. "You did everything you could," Sarah said softly. "Sometimes caring about others means carrying their loss, but it also means their lives had meaning." Kira squeezed Sarah's hand tighter. My people say emotions make us weak. They taught us to cut away all feelings. Your people were wrong, Sarah replied. Emotions don't make you weak. They make you more than just a weapon. They make you alive. The monitoring equipment in the room began to register changes in Kira's brain activity. The patterns were unlike anything seen in Zinthari before. Areas of her brain that had been dormant were suddenly active. Over the following days, Kira began to change. She started asking questions about the other patients in the medical bay. She wanted to know about their families, their homes, their dreams. The warrior who had been trained to see others only as targets or obstacles was learning to see them as individuals with their own stories. Sarah introduced Kira to other members of the station crew. At first, Kira was nervous around them. She had been taught that forming connections was dangerous, but slowly she began to open up. Why do humans do this? Kira asked one day as she watched Sarah treating an injured pilot. You could be working on important research, but instead, you spend time caring for strangers. Sarah smiled as she bandaged the pilot's arm. Because no one should have to face pain alone. When we help others, we make the galaxy a little bit better. Kira thought about this for a long time. On my home world, injured warriors are left to heal themselves or die. It's considered weakness to need help. That sounds lonely, Sarah said. It was, Kira admitted. I just didn't know there was another way. Word of Kira's transformation spread throughout the station. Scientists came to study her, fascinated by the neurological changes. But Sarah protected Kira from becoming just another research subject. She's not a test case, Sarah told the research team firmly. She's a person who's learning to feel again. As the weeks passed, Kira began to help in the medical bay. Her enhanced strength and quick reflexes made her excellent at emergency response. But more importantly, her newfound empathy made her a natural healer. I understand pain now, Kira told Sarah as they worked together to save a crew member injured in an accident. I can feel what others feel. Before, I thought that would make me weak, but it makes me want to help them. Sarah watched as Kira gently comforted the injured crew member, speaking softly to keep him calm while they worked. The transformation was remarkable. The warrior who had been designed to take lives was now dedicated to saving them. The high command of my people has sent orders, Kira said one evening. They want me to return home for reprogramming. They say I'm defective now. Sarah felt a chill. What will you do? Kira looked at her hands, the same hands that had once only known how to destroy, but had learned to heal through human touch and compassion. I don't know, Kira said quietly. But I know I can't go back to being what I was before. You showed me something my people said was impossible. You showed me that feeling isn't weakness. The next morning, Sarah found a message waiting for her. A Zinthari battlecruiser was approaching the station. They were coming to take Kira home. Sarah rushed to find Kira, but the warrior was already preparing to leave. She wore her armor again, but something was different. The cold, emotionless mask was gone from her face. You don't have to go, Sarah said. You can stay here. You can choose your own path. Kira smiled, the first real smile Sarah had ever seen from her. You taught me that caring about others means sometimes making hard choices. My people are living the way I used to live, empty, alone, feeling nothing. Maybe I can show them what you showed me. That's dangerous, Sarah warned. They might not want to change. Probably not, Kira agreed. But someone has to try. Someone has to show them that there's more to existence than just surviving and fighting. As Kira prepared to board the Zinthari ship, she took Sarah's hand one more time. Thank you, Kira said simply. You gave me something I never knew I was missing. You gave me the ability to truly live. Sarah squeezed her hand. Remember, you're not alone anymore. Even when we're apart, the connections we make stay with us. Kira nodded and walked toward the docking bay, but as she reached the doorway, she turned back. Sarah, she called out. What you humans call love, I think I understand it now. It's not just about feeling good. It's about caring so much about others that you're willing to change yourself to help them. Yes, Sarah replied, tears in her eyes. That's exactly what it is. As the Zenthari ship departed, Sarah wondered what would happen next. Kira was returning to a society that had programmed emotion out of its people for generations. The warrior faced an impossible task, but Sarah had learned something important too. The capacity for love and connection wasn't unique to humans. It existed in all thinking beings waiting to be awakened. Sometimes all it took was one person willing to reach out their hand and show that no one had to face the universe alone. The galaxy was vast and often cruel, but it was also full of possibilities. And sometimes, the most powerful force in the universe wasn't advanced technology or superior weapons. Sometimes it was simply the courage to care about someone else. The Zenthari homeworld looked like a massive fortress floating in space. Gray metal cities stretched across the planet's surface, connected by bridges that gleamed under the cold light of twin suns. No trees grew here. No flowers bloomed. Everything was built for efficiency and war. Kira stood at the observation deck of the transport ship as it approached her home. 3 months had passed since she left Station Gamma 7. 3 months since Sarah had shown her what it meant to feel. Now as she looked at the world where she was born, everything seemed different. "Warrior Kira," the ship's captain announced. "We will dock in 10 minutes. The High Command is waiting for you." Kira touched the small device hidden in her armor. It was a communication link that Sarah had given her before she left. It would allow them to stay in contact across the galaxy. The device was more than just technology to Kira. It was proof that connections could survive any distance. The docking bay was exactly as Kira remembered. Hundreds of warriors moved in perfect formation, their faces showing no emotion. They all looked the same, silver skin, dark eyes, and expressions that revealed nothing. Kira had once looked exactly like them. "Warrior Kira, report for evaluation," announced Commander Vex as Kira stepped off the ship. Vex was one of the highest-ranking officers in the Zenthari military. His voice was cold and mechanical. Kira followed Vex through the corridors of the military complex. Other warriors they passed didn't look at her. They didn't look at anything except their assigned duties. The silence was heavy and oppressive. The evaluation chamber was a white room with no windows. 5 members of the High Command sat behind a metal table. They studied Kira with the same expression they would use to examine a broken weapon. "Warrior Kira," said General Thane, the leader of the High Command, "your recent behavior has been reported as irregular. You have shown signs of emotional corruption." "I have learned new ways of thinking," Kira replied carefully. She had prepared for this moment during the long journey home. "Thinking is not the issue," General Thane continued. "The medical reports from the alien station indicate dangerous changes in your brain chemistry. You have developed what humans call emotions." The way he said the word emotions made it sound like a disease. "Yes," Kira said simply. "I have learned to feel." Murmurs of disapproval came from the other commanders. One of them, General Nix, leaned forward. "Emotions are weakness," General Nix stated. "They cloud judgment. They make warriors ineffective. This is why our ancestors removed these defects from our species." "With respect, General," Kira said, "I believe our ancestors made a mistake." The silence that followed was so complete that Kira could hear the air circulation systems humming in the walls. No Zenthari had ever challenged the wisdom of their ancestors. "Explain yourself," General Thane demanded, his voice dangerously quiet. Kira took a deep breath. She thought of Sarah's words about courage and connection. "When my squad was killed by the Void Hunters, I felt nothing," Kira began. "I watched my comrades die and I felt no sadness. I failed to save them and I felt no guilt. I survived when they didn't and I felt no grief." "That is correct behavior," General Nix interrupted. "Emotional attachment to other warriors creates weakness." "No," Kira said firmly. "It made me less effective. Because I felt nothing for my squad members, I didn't fight as hard to protect them. I saw them as tools instead of people worth saving." The commanders exchanged glances. This was not what they had expected to hear. "On the alien station, I learned something different," Kira continued. "I learned that caring about others doesn't make you weak. It makes you stronger. When you care about someone, you fight harder to protect them. You think more creatively to solve problems. You push beyond your normal limits." "These are human ideas," General Thane said with disgust. "Humans are weak. They allow emotions to control them." "Humans are not weak," Kira replied. "They are one of the most successful species in the galaxy. They form alliances that span star systems. They sacrifice themselves for strangers. They solve problems that pure logic cannot handle. She paused, remembering Sarah's gentle hands and kind words. A human doctor saved my life, Kira said. Not just my body, but my mind. She showed me that there is more to existence than following orders and fighting battles. You will be sent for reprogramming immediately, General Thane declared. These foreign ideas will be removed from your mind. You will return to proper Xanthari behavior. What if I refuse? Kira asked. The question shocked the entire room. Xanthari never refused orders from the High Command. Then you will be terminated, General Nix said coldly. A defective warrior is worse than no warrior at all. Kira was escorted to a holding cell to await reprogramming. The cell was small and empty, with only a metal bench and a small window that looked out at the training grounds. She watched young Xanthari warriors practicing combat moves with perfect precision and no passion. That night, Kira activated the communication device Sarah had given her. A holographic image of the human doctor appeared in the cell. Kira! Sarah's face lit up with joy. I was hoping you would contact me. How are things going? They want to reprogram me, Kira said quietly. They want to remove everything you taught me about feeling and caring. Sarah's expression became serious. Are you going to let them? I don't know, Kira admitted. If I resist, they will kill me. If I submit, I will become empty again. Everything I learned about love and connection will be gone. What does your heart tell you to do? Sarah asked. Kira touched her chest. She could feel her heart beating faster as she thought about the choice before her. My heart tells me to fight, Kira said. But I am only one person against an entire military system. Sometimes one person is enough, Sarah replied. Sometimes one person can start a change that spreads to others. How? Kira asked. Sarah smiled. The same way you learn to feel, one connection at a time. After the communication ended, Kira lay on the metal bench and thought about Sarah's words. She remembered how her own transformation had begun with a simple touch of hands. Maybe other Xanthari could learn the same way. The next morning, guards came to escort Kira to the reprogramming facility. As they walked through the corridors, Kira noticed something she had never seen before. Some of the younger warriors looked at her with curiosity. Word of her unusual evaluation had spread through the complex. Is it true that you learned to feel emotions? Whispered a young warrior named Dex when the guards weren't looking. Kira nodded. Yes, it changed everything. Before Dex could ask more questions, the guards separated them. But Kira had seen something in the young warrior's eyes that gave her hope. Curiosity. Interest. The beginning of questions about their way of life. At the reprogramming facility, Kira was strapped to a chair surrounded by complex machinery. The procedure would take several hours. Machines would send signals directly into her brain to eliminate the neural pathways that allowed emotional responses. This will not hurt, the technician informed her. You will simply return to your proper state of emotional neutrality. What if I don't want to return to that state? Kira asked. The technician looked confused. Why would you want to keep defective brain functions? Because they make me more than just a weapon, Kira replied. They make me alive. As the machines powered up, Kira closed her eyes and thought about all the people she had met on Station Gamma 7. She remembered the injured pilot she had helped heal. She remembered the research scientist who had shared stories about his home planet. Most of all, she remembered Sarah's kindness and patience. The reprogramming process began. Kira felt the machines probing her mind, searching for the neural pathways that enabled emotional responses. But something unexpected happened. Instead of erasing these pathways, Kira focused on strengthening them. She concentrated on every memory of connection and caring. The machines detected the resistance. Alarms began to sound. The subject is fighting the procedure, the technician reported. Her brain activity is off the charts. Increase the power, ordered the supervising doctor. Override her resistance. But Kira's mind had changed too much. The pathways for emotion had become too strong to simply erase. The machines sparked and smoked as they overloaded, trying to process the unexpected neural activity. Shut it down, the doctor shouted as sparks flew from the equipment. When the restraints released, Kira sat up slowly. She still felt everything: love, hope, determination, and even fear. The reprogramming had failed. How is this possible? The doctor demanded. The procedure has never failed before. Maybe because no Xanthari has ever had this much reason to fight for their emotions, Kira said. Guards surrounded her, but before they could react, Alarms began sounding throughout the complex. Emergency lights flashed as an announcement echoed through the halls. Void hunter ships detected approaching the system. All warriors report to battle stations immediately. The Void Hunters were the most dangerous enemy the Zenthari had ever faced. They were a species of energy beings that consumed entire civilizations. A single Void Hunter ship could destroy a planet. How many ships? General Thane demanded as he arrived at the command center. 7, reported the tactical officer. They will reach our outer defenses. In 1 hour, the general's face showed the first crack in his emotionless mask. Fear. 7. Void Hunter ships were more than the Zenthari had ever faced at once. Deploy all available warriors, General Thane ordered. Full defensive formation. Sir, the tactical officer said quietly. Our current battle protocols may not be sufficient. We have never faced this many Void Hunters simultaneously. Kira stepped forward. General, I request permission to join the defense. You are scheduled for termination, General Nix reminded her. You are no longer considered a functional warrior. I have fought Void Hunters before, Kira said. I know their tactics, and I know something about fighting that might help. General Thane studied her for a moment. With 7 enemy ships approaching, he needed every warrior available. Explain your strategy, he demanded. Traditional Zenthari tactics treat each warrior as an individual unit, Kira said. We fight alone even when we fight together. But humans taught me about teamwork, about caring for the warriors beside you, about fighting not just for victory but for the people you want to protect. Emotional attachment, General Nix said with disgust. Motivated purpose, Kira corrected. When you care about something, you fight harder to defend it. The first wave of Void Hunter ships reached the outer system. The reports coming in were devastating. The enemy was cutting through Zenthari defenses like they weren't there. Traditional tactics are failing, reported the communications officer. We've lost 30% of our outer fleet in the first engagement. General Thane looked at the tactical display. At the current rate of loss, the Zenthari would be completely defeated within hours. Warrior Kira, he said finally, you will lead a squadron of volunteers. Show us these human tactics you speak of. Kira was assigned a group of young warriors, including Dex, the one who had asked her about emotions. As they prepared their ships for launch, Kira gathered them together. I'm going to teach you something that goes against everything you've been trained to believe, she said. I'm going to teach you to care about each other. The warriors looked confused. Caring for others was forbidden in their culture. Look at the warrior next to you, Kira instructed. That person has a name, a history, dreams about the future. They are not just another soldier. They are someone worth protecting. How does this help us fight? Asked Dex. Because when you care about someone, you don't let them die, Kira explained. You watch their back. You take risks to save them. You work together instead of just following individual orders. As they launched into space, Kira could see the Void Hunter ships in the distance. They looked like dark storms moving through the stars, consuming light and energy from everything they touched. Squadron, remember what we discussed, Kira transmitted to her team. We fight together. We protect each other. No one gets left behind. The battle was fierce. Void Hunter ships fired energy weapons that could drain the power from Zenthari vessels. Traditional tactics called for each ship to engage independently, following predetermined attack patterns. But Kira's squadron did something different. When one ship was in trouble, the others immediately moved to help. When Dex's ship was surrounded by enemy fighters, 2 other squadron members abandoned their own targets to rescue him. This is wrong, Dex transmitted during the battle. I should fight my own battles. No, Kira replied as she destroyed an enemy fighter that was targeting Dex's damaged ship. We fight together. Your survival matters to me. Something changed in Dex's voice when he responded. It does? Yes, Kira said simply. You matter. The effect was immediate. Dex began fighting with new intensity, not just for victory, but to protect the warriors who had protected him. The change spread through the squadron. Warriors who had been trained to feel nothing for each other began to care, and caring made them stronger. Kira's squadron achieved something unprecedented. They destroyed 3 Void Hunter ships while losing only 2 of their own vessels. The ratio of victory to loss was far better than any previous Zenthari engagement. Other squadrons began to notice. Reports came in of warriors breaking formation to help their comrades. Instead of following rigid tactics, they began adapting and improvising based on what their fellow warriors needed. What is happening out there? General Thane demanded. Our warriors are acting irregularly. They're learning to care about each other, Kira transmitted from her ship, and it's making them fight better than they ever have before. By the end of the battle, the Zenthari had achieved a complete victory. All 7 Void Hunter ships were destroyed. The enemy fleet that should have conquered their home world had been defeated. But the real victory was what happened after the battle. As the surviving warriors returned to base, they did something no Zenthari had done in centuries. They celebrated together. They mourned their fallen comrades. They expressed joy at being alive and gratitude for their friends' survival. In the debriefing room, General Thane studied the battle reports with amazement. The casualty rates are the lowest in our military history, he said slowly. The effectiveness ratings are the highest we have ever recorded. Emotions made us stronger, Kira said. Caring about each other made us fight harder and smarter. For the first time, General Thane looked uncertain. Everything he had believed about emotions being weakness had been proven wrong in the most decisive way possible. Perhaps, he said quietly, our ancestors were wrong about some things. Over the following weeks, changes began spreading through Zenthari society. Warriors started forming friendships. They began caring about each other's welfare. They discovered that feeling emotions didn't make them weak. It made them more effective, more creative, and more alive. Kira was assigned to train other warriors in what came to be called connection tactics. She taught them that caring for others was not weakness, but strength. She showed them that emotions could enhance their abilities rather than limit them. Not everyone accepted the changes easily. Some of the older commanders resisted, clinging to the old ways. But the younger warriors embraced the new approach eagerly. They had seen the results in battle, and they wanted to experience the connections that made life meaningful. Months later, Kira stood in the same observation deck where she had first returned home. But now the view was different. Gardens had been planted in the military complex. Warriors walked in small groups, talking and laughing together. Children played in areas that had once been restricted to combat training. Kira called a familiar voice. She turned to see Dex approaching. He had been promoted to squadron leader and was now teaching connection tactics to other young warriors. How are the new recruits progressing? Kira asked. Better than expected, Dex replied with a smile. Smiling was another thing Zenthari had learned to do. They're discovering that when you care about your mission and your comrades, everything becomes easier. Kira activated her communication device, and Sarah's image appeared. The human doctor looked delighted to see both Kira and Dex. The changes you've made are incredible, Sarah said. The reports reaching our sector describe a complete transformation of Zenthari society. It started with what you taught me, Kira said. One connection can change everything. And now you've created thousands of connections, Sarah replied. You've shown an entire species that love and caring make them stronger, not weaker. Dex looked curious. Dr. Chen, what is it like on Station Gamma 7 now? Busier than ever, Sarah laughed. We have delegations from dozens of species coming to learn about human approaches to teamwork and emotional intelligence. Apparently, word has spread that emotions can be tactical advantages. The galaxy is changing, Kira observed. Species that once fought alone are learning to work together. The connections are spreading. As the communication ended, Kira looked out at her transformed homeworld. The sterile military complex had become a community where people cared about each other. Warriors still trained for battle, but they also trained in cooperation, empathy, and connection. Do you ever regret what happened? Dex asked. Giving up the old ways? Kira thought about the question seriously. I regret the time we lost, she said finally. All those centuries when we could have been more than just weapons. All those warriors who lived and died without ever knowing what it felt like to truly care about someone. But we know now, Dex said, and we can teach others. Yes, Kira agreed. We can show them that the strongest force in the universe isn't superior technology or advanced weapons. It's the courage to care about someone else. The twin suns were setting over the Zenthari homeworld, painting the sky in colors that the people had learned to appreciate. In the distance, ships arrived carrying visitors from other worlds, species who wanted to learn about the transformation that had made the Zenthari more effective than ever before. Kira touched the communication device that connected her to Sarah across the galaxy. It was a symbol of the truth she had learned, that love and connection could bridge any distance. overcome any obstacle and transform any life. The galaxy was vast and often dangerous, but it was no longer a cold, empty place. It was filled with connections, with beings who cared about each other, with the endless possibility that understanding and compassion could overcome hatred and fear, and it had all started with a simple human gesture. A doctor, reaching out her hand to show that no one had to face the universe alone.